Hello YouTube, finally I covered 7 out of 8 legends and now I'm going to cover the last one and the name is Bangalore. She's pretty much very similar to Lifeline. The main reason why people play her is because of her passive. Yes, of course her other skills are good as well, but let's be real here. Anyway, let's get straight into it. As always, all the timestamps will be down in descriptions, so feel free to skip wherever you like. A tiny self-plug first. I made a Discord channel for memes and discussions about Apex in general, also some other cool features like looking for the group and stuff. If you want to check it out, I will leave the link down in the description. I also leave my Twitter and Instagram there, so feel free to follow up on those, if you want to keep up with updates and stuff from me, that is. Okay, back into the video. Number 1. Skills. Passive, double time. You get 30% speed boost for a few seconds when you are in the danger zone, but to trigger this ability you have to be sprinting. To be honest, most players are sprinting most of the time, so you don't really need to think about this too much. It will work automatically most of the time. As simple as it is, I would like to mention a few things. It lasts somewhere around 1.5 seconds and the cooldown for it is roughly 5 to 6 seconds from my experience. It will trigger not just if somebody shoots at you, but if someone lobs a grenade near you, or even if Gibraltar or enemy bang uses ult, you will also get the speed boost, so getting out of them is pretty easy. This passive turns you into Usain Bolt for a brief time, and I would like to mention, if you are in the close fight, then you are at your strongest when it triggers. It's super hard to hear an enemy bang when she's on her passive. You know how when you play other legends and you get shot, then it's really hard to run and impossible to slide. Your character just feels super slow. I mean, it is realistic since you are getting shot in your body, you would slow down. But Bang completely counters this defect, and when she gets in danger she becomes even stronger, so it's always easy to engage or disengage. This ability could be used aggressively to just cause confusion or used defensively to disengage from the fight. It makes with your smokes, it makes good Bang impossible to catch. It could also be used for quicker flank, but if it triggers, that means you got shot, so they pretty much know you're coming. Try to work together with your team to sandwich an enemy, since it won't really surprise them most of the time, but in combination with your smokes, it could be confusing to know where exactly you be coming from. Up to today's date, when I was making a script, this ability is super strong and makes the character really strong. But yesterday they released a new update that upcoming to Bangalore, and it's basically changing her passive from 40% speed boost, which it was before, to 30% speed boost. That's why I said 30% in this script now. I had to change my script a little bit. I think that will drastically nerf Bangalore and she'll be way less played from now on. Just because of that, because you can pretty much extract way more use out of Bloodhound's ult with like 20% movement speed or something than playing Bangalore's with only 30% passive. When it was at 40%, it was like super strong, but now it's like a lot weaker. I feel like it will get a lot weaker, but I might be wrong. Anyway, let's talk about her tactical ability, Smoke Launcher. This ability is very versatile and should be used differently depending on your situation and position. Let's start off with using it aggressively. If you have an infrared attachment, then you can throw it on top of the enemies to cover yourself from fire, while seeing everyone and having easy shots. You can also use it together with Bloodhound. One thing that frustrates me when I'm playing with randoms is the lack of communication. If I have Bloodhound in my team, as soon as he uses his ult, I immediately throw smokes on the enemy team, so he can pretty much kill them with minimum exposure. But often they don't catch the drift and just ignore the chance. Well, if you don't have scopes or Bloodhound in your team, then you can use it to reposition or to even flank. Drop it on the enemy team to cover their vision whilst getting around them. Especially if they put some shots on you to trigger your passive, then that works even smoother. Just make sure not to throw it every time and block your own teammate's vision on the enemy team. Moving on to defensive and supportive smoke. Yes, throwing it on yourself might be useful when you are healing or reviving someone. Just make sure you are ready for the grenades though, since the smokes do work as grenade sponges and the enemy team will usually lob everything they have into it. What I usually see Bangalores do is leave all the smokes for themselves and only use it on them. And that's the big mistake. As a Bangalore, you have the passive to save you in the worst case, so please make sure if you are a bit far from your teammate and he's getting shot, then lob that smoke onto him to get him some breathing time and hopefully even save him. Just make sure to warn him first, or even in general, say it right at the start of the game, so people will ask for smokes if they're in trouble. I played with one of my friends who mains Bang and he saved my ass so many times like that, it was a game changer. I never seen people use it that way, usually everyone just holds it for themselves. Another thing I would like to mention is don't just throw it on yourself whilst running away and immediately open your back to an enemy and run. The ability has a tiny animation before the smokes actually starts blocking the vision. So for example, look at this clip. I'm in trouble and getting pretty much destroyed. But instead of throwing smoke and immediately running away with opening my back, I carry on shooting the enemy around the rock and provide some cover fire while the smoke starts working. As soon as the smoke grenade explodes, I disengage safely. You can also use it together with your ultimate to give you even more cover or to confuse the enemy. It could also be used to flush the enemy, but don't really expect any damage done since it's not Gibraltar Zone. Additionally, use your smokes for repositioning if you are in disadvantage. Maybe try to even take high ground. Sometimes if I'm getting sandwiched between the teams, I will throw it on to one side of the enemy team to cover my back. This ability has massive throw and could go super far, and it also deals 10 damage to an enemy on impact. It might not be good damage, but with this you will know exactly if you landed it on the enemy. Also, since melee deals 30 damage, together with this ability you will need one less punch since it will add up to 100. Just like with Mirage's decoy, you can use it whilst healing, shooting or throwing grenades and etc. It won't stop you from whatever you are doing, so take advantage of that and use it. And last but not least, in the end game, always think like your enemy has a digital scope, since pretty much every second squad will have at least one person with it, and they will be able to use your own smoke against you or your teammates. So don't rely on your smokes too much in the final rounds, or at least be cautious about it. Okay, now moving on to the ultimate. Useless garbage. Oh wait, what? Oh shit, my bad, wrong name. I mean, Rolling Thunder. Alright, jokes aside, it's an okay ult. It has some usage for flushing the enemy and zone controlling, but it's pretty much weak and usually only will get in your way. There's few ways of using it offensively, and most cases it would be just to block a certain zone so you can flank or flush the enemy out of the comfort zone. And this used to be good tactic since enemy would always get scared and try to get out of the indicator zone. But now when I play against better players, they usually don't even care that you have ult or that you dropped it right on top of them, since it only deals 20 damage and one shield cell is enough to cover the damage. So if you will face more experienced players, then they won't really give a shit about your ult and not going to even try to dodge it. Yes, it does still briefly stuns them and gives some blur and stuff, but it will work exactly the same on you and your team too, so you can't really use it against an enemy. I asked few Bang mains around and the answer was usually the same. They even never use it at all since it gets in their way by blinding and slowing them, or they use it to disengage together with smokes. So while running away, you use some smokes and drop your ult underneath you as well. As I said before, the damage is almost non-existent, to the point where smarter enemies don't even care about it, but it can still cause a lot of confusion and big clouds of dirt, so you can definitely use it to reposition, flank or disengage. Let's cover how it works. You throw down a flare and then the strike drops into the direction you threw it. It will never go behind it, which is the direction where you are. It will always land in front where you are throwing it. And as you can see here, it drops a barrage in a zigzag form, after which it explodes in the same zigzag form. As I said before, one explosion deals 20 damage, so it's pretty much useless for damage, but it does leave a cloud of dirt behind, so it could work as one big smoke really. And also it will kind of flush some unexperienced enemies and they will try to run away from the radius of the explosion. Another good way to use it is to land on the enemy building, just to make sure they stay inside while you throw some grenades there. But if the enemy is smart, they will get out, since taking 20 damage is better than getting wrecked by grenades. Most of the time, I will definitely recommend to leave it for the worst case, where you need some cover or your teammate does, and use it together with your smokes to escape and heal up or res, but don't really use it offensively since it's not really a Gibraltar Zone. And on a smart enemy won't really work as zoning either, so the only main use is really just to reposition or to escape. Just look at it as a third smoke that also deals some damage and slows, so enemies are less likely to push in than pushing normal smoke. And try to use it in combo with your smokes or passive to rotate quicker. If you watched old Shroud gameplay where he used Bang, then you can kinda see most of the times he just throws it randomly without any meaning. But anyway, with this covered, let's move on to counter picks and team composition. Bangalore counters Gibraltar's and an enemy Bank's ultimate with her passive, since she can get enough speed boost to get out of the radius. She also counters Caustic a little bit, since she also gets a speed boost and can potentially get out of his gas a bit quicker as well. But as soon as the passive goes off, you will be slowed as usual. She is very fast under her passive, so a lot of flankers will have a shitload of trouble killing you for the first few seconds. But you have to also use it for your own advantage and kill them before it goes off on a cooldown. Bangalore also gets countered by Caustic back, since he can pretty much outdo your smokes by placing his gas tanks over it and exploding them. Especially since the new update where his gas tanks actually have bigger radius. That will give Caustic an advantage over the enemy smoke. So if you see the traps, try to shoot the base to get them destroyed before he activates them. Also, Bloodhound is your main counter since under his ult he gets good speed boost and he can see you and your team through the smokes. So if see an enemy Bloodhound or hear his ult, don't rely on your smokes. Instead, drop it on his teammates to cut them off the fight and hopefully collapse on the Bloodhound with your team. Additionally, keep in mind that your smokes can be used by the enemy too. For example, Wraith can hide her ult in there, or Gibraltar can completely cover it with his ultimate. And I said before, people will chuck grenades in it, so usually try to not put it right on top of yourself. Now let's cover team composition. The main one that everyone loves is Bang with Bloodhound, since you can smoke the enemy whilst using Bloodhound's ult and pretty much wipe the enemy team almost all the time, unless they have enemy Bloodhound to counter this, or at least the infrared scopes. Bang's ult can also work great together with Gibraltar's. You flush them out and try to make them go where you want, while he covers that spot with his ultimate, or even cover his ult with the smokes. You can always help Lifeline revive teammates by dropping smoke in front of or on top of her. It's very effective, especially that she has her own bullet shield. And also, Lifeline care package is another good addition since there is 10% chance it will drop the legendary scope. Wraith teleports work great with smokes. It's a nice way to cover the teleport and make some sneaky plays, since the enemy won't even know how the entire team got from one smoke to another. I don't even want to talk about Caustic. Just imagine how much coverage you have. 3 traps plus his ultimate and 2 smokes plus your ultimate. You can pretty much cover the entire location with all of this. And last but not least, Mirage. Your smoke works also great with his decoys. By sending the decoys out of the smokes, you can confuse the enemies. But keep in mind, if he uses his cloak inside your smoke, then it will be really visible and will make him an easier target. So use it with decoy, but not with his ultimate. And now let's move on to pros and cons. Pros. Very strong passive, pretty much the reason for why people play her. You have 2 smoke grenades that are super useful in supportive and defensive plays. Your ult covers a massive radius. The smoke bomb deals 10 damage, which basically sums up to 100 damage together with 3 punches. You have a lot of escaping abilities, your ultimate, your smokes, and in worst case, your passive. Good Bang is pretty much impossible to catch. Your smokes can be used as grenade sponges and trigger people to use up all their grenades. You can use your tactical while pretty much doing anything else, so you can always give yourself or your teammates extra protection without stopping your heal or the attack. Great for poke damage. With the passive you can get in and out of the fights pretty easily. She has an okay hitbox, it's not too big but not small either. In general, she's a high tier pick right now and in the meta. Well, at least she was when the speed boost was 40%. I don't know how this will actually impact her. Now moving on to cons. Your ultimate is useless against experienced players, they won't even bother with it. And even if they will, it's super easy to get out of. Most of the games your ult is either just randomly thrown away or not even used at all. Sometimes if you wasn't sprinting, the passive won't trigger, making you an easier target and missing out on the opportunity of running faster. Smokes can be used against you, especially if enemy has a Bloodhound or the legendary scopes. Plus, in the end game, almost every second team will have at least 1 scope, so you have to be very careful with it. There's quite few exploits to see through the smokes, but hopefully that will be fixed in the near future. There's a small animation before your smokes start working, and the animation is enough to get yourself killed. Your moving speed boost could also affect your own aim, making you miss, but you will get used to it with practice, so it isn't really that much of a con. Your smokes and your ultimate can also work against your team, blurring their vision and potentially saving the enemy from them. Alright, here we go. The final legend is covered for now. I personally can't wait till new legends and new updates come out for Apex so I can cover more stuff and I'll have more content. If you think I missed some tips, pros or cons, please comment them down below. It will help me and other people out. If you like this video, make sure to give it a like, and if you dislike it, give it a dislike, I guess. And if you want more Apex videos from me, then don't forget to also subscribe and hit that notification thing so you can always be up to date with my guides. Thank you for watching and I see you guys in the game. Bye.